Captain Ryker Finn found himself enveloped by the infinite sea of stars as a spacecraft. The celestial nomad descended onto the enigmatic surface of GLE 9. A seasoned traveler, explorer, and adventurer, Ryker had roamed the cosmos ever since humanity had first taken its audacious leap into interstellar exploration. However, this latest mission was less about discovery and more about a necessary pit stop, just a routine layover on his journey back to Earth. Yet, the moment his ship touched the ground, something about GLE 9 felt different. The planet was breathtaking. Its twin suns cast a radiant glow over the crystalline waters of a vast lake that seemed to stretch infinitely across the horizon. Eager to stretch his legs and uncover the secrets of this alien world, Ryker grabbed a few supplies and made his way towards the lake. As he approached the shimmering waters, a sudden splash disrupted the calm surface. "Hello!" Ryker called out, scanning the lake for the source of the disturbance. For a moment, he saw nothing, until a slender figure erupted from the water, arms flailing in distress. Without a second thought, Ryker stripped off his jacket and dashed to the water's edge, diving into the icy depths. The chill bit at his skin as he swam toward the struggling figure. When he reached her, his hand brushed against cool, smooth skin, definitely not human. The being was a striking shade of emerald green, glimmering under the sunlight. He quickly pulled her to the surface. Her movements were weak, her strength waning as she sputtered purple water. "Hold on, I've got you," Ryker grunted, dragging her toward the shore. Despite her elongated limbs and alien appearance, her weight felt surprisingly light in his arms. When they finally reached dry land, he laid her gently on the ground, his heart racing with worry. For a moment, he feared the worst, but then her eyes fluttered open, revealing two radiant violet orbs that met his gaze. The alien girl coughed, expelling water from her lungs before looking up at him, her expression a mix of gratitude and bewilderment. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice soft and melodic, yet tinged with an accent Ryker had never encountered before. He offered her a reassuring smile as he knelt beside her. "Are you okay? What were you doing out there?" Her gaze lingered on him, filled with a depth he couldn't quite comprehend. "I didn't expect the gravity of your world to be so overwhelming," she confessed, her voice trembling slightly. "I've only just arrived." "Wait, you're new to GLE 9 too?" Ryker asked, his brow raised in surprise. "Yes," she replied quietly, sitting up and wrapping her arms around herself. "My name is Seren. I come from the Sithra system." Ryker recognized the name. The Sithrans were known across the galaxy as a reclusive, highly advanced species seldom seen by outsiders. It was odd to find one of them here, alone and vulnerable. He shook his head, trying to focus on the more immediate issue. "You're lucky I was close by," he said, offering her his jacket for warmth. "The water here is dangerous, especially for those unfamiliar with the environment." Seren accepted the jacket with a soft nod. "I owe you my life," she murmured, glancing down at the fabric enveloping her slender frame. "Your kind, humans, are not as primitive as I was led to believe." Ryker chuckled softly, raising an eyebrow. "We're not so bad once you get to know us." As Seren regained her strength, she looked up at Ryker, curiosity glinting in her eyes. "You saved me without hesitation." "Why?" He shrugged. "It's just what we do. Humans help when we can." Her lips curled into a faint smile. "Perhaps you're more than I thought." Ryker didn't fully grasp her words, but a sense of connection began to form between them, a bond that neither could easily explain. In that moment, standing on the shores of the alien lake, what mattered was that Seren was safe, and Ryker sensed his adventure on GLE 9 was just beginning. As the twin suns dipped lower on the horizon, shadows crept across the alien landscape, and the temperature began to drop. They couldn't linger by the lake for much longer. His ship, the Celestial Nomad, was nearby, and he decided the safest place for Seren would be aboard his vessel. "Come on, let's get you somewhere warm," he said, offering his hand to help her stand. Seren hesitated, her violet eyes scanning his face as if trying to decipher his intentions. Finally, with a soft nod, she took his hand. Ryker pulled her to her feet, surprised by how light she felt. Her delicate limbs and almost ethereal frame seemed almost weightless in the gravity of GLE Nine, yet there was an undeniable strength in her movements. As they walked back towards the celestial nomad, Ryker found himself increasingly curious about Seren and her people. The Scythrans were known for their isolationist ways, rarely interacting with other species. So why had she come to this place? Once inside the ship, the atmosphere was warmer, and he noticed Seren visibly relaxed as she stepped into the small but cozy cabin. Ryker gestured towards the bench along the wall, and she sat down, still wrapped in his jacket. "Do you want something to drink? Maybe some water or tea?" he offered, rummaging through his supplies. "No, thank you," she replied, shaking her head. "Your kindness is enough." He poured himself a cup of tea anyway, his mind buzzing with questions. He took a sip before breaking the silence. "So, what brought you here?" GLE 9 isn't exactly a tourist spot. A flicker of emotion crossed her face, but it was fleeting. She sighed softly, her fingers fidgeting with the jacket's edge. "I didn't come here by choice," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Sent?" Ryker frowned. "By who? And why?" She hesitated, her gaze dropping to the floor. "It's complicated. The Scythrans don't value individuality the way humans do. We live for the collective good, and those who don't conform are often discarded." Ryker felt a pang of empathy. "So they abandoned you?" "Yes," Seren nodded slowly. "I was seen as flawed, imperfect. I didn't fit into their vision of what a Scythran should be, so they sent me away, hoping I would never return." Ryker leaned back in his chair, grappling with the cruelty of such an act. To be cast out by your own people and left to survive on a strange planet was unimaginable. "That's terrible," he muttered. "No one deserves that." Seren looked up at him, her eyes shimmering with gratitude. "Thank you. But in some ways, I'm relieved. I'm free now, free to make my own choices, even if I don't know what those choices are yet." He studied her, struck by her strength despite the sadness in her voice. He admired her courage, the way she faced rejection and exile with quiet dignity. But there was something deeper, a mystery lurking beneath her surface. "Do you think they'll come after you?" he asked, his voice low. Seren shook her head. "No. Once the Scythrans exile someone, they are erased from the collective. I'm no longer one of them." Ryker nodded, though he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her story. He sensed she wasn't ready to share everything just yet. Instead, he offered what he could. "You're welcome to stay here on the Celestial Nomad until you figure out your next move," he said, his tone gentle but firm. "I can take you somewhere safer if you need." Her eyes softened, and a genuine smile spread across her face, warming the cold air around them. "You've already done more for me than I ever expected. I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to," Ryker replied with a shrug. "Like I said, it's just what we do." For a while, they sat in comfortable silence, the hum of the ship's engines the only sound in the background. Outside, the twin suns of GLE 9 had set, and the sky was now awash with stars, millions of them twinkling like distant beacons in the vastness of space. Ryker's mind wandered as he gazed out the window, pondering what the future held. He hadn't planned for any of this, but now with Seren aboard, he felt a strong intuition that his journey was about to take an unexpected turn. The days following Seren's arrival were quiet, yet filled with a growing sense of anticipation. Ryker had made up the spare cabin for her, giving her a space to rest and recover. He spent most of his time tinkering with the ship, ensuring everything was in working order for their eventual departure. Yet, the unease that gnawed at him refused to dissipate. GLE 9 was supposed to be a routine stop, but nothing about this mission felt routine anymore. Seren spent her days learning about the ship, quietly observing Ryker. She moved with grace, often lost in thought as she gazed out the window at the vast, star-filled sky. There was something hauntingly beautiful about her presence, both alien and familiar in ways Ryker couldn't articulate. She was an enigma, a mystery that grew deeper each day. Before long, Ryker began to notice subtle changes in their surroundings. It started with small anomalies, a sudden drop in temperature, a strange hum in the air, and the way the lake outside seemed to pulse with an unnatural rhythm. At night, he tried to dismiss these feelings, attributing them to the peculiarities of an alien world. But when Seren spoke up one evening, concern lacing her tone, Ryker could no longer ignore it. "Ryker, something is wrong," she said quietly, standing by the ship's console. Her violet eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, reflecting the unease that Ryker could clearly sense. "What do you mean?" he asked, rising from his work and crossing over to her, brow furrowed. She hesitated, biting her lip. "This planet, it's not as empty as we thought. I can sense a presence. Something is watching us." Riker's instincts flared to life. He instinctively hovered his hand near the blaster strapped to his side, trusting his gut. The thought of being watched, potentially by hostile forces, filled him with unease. "Have you seen anything?" he asked, keeping his voice low as he scanned the ship's sensors. "Not directly," she admitted, her expression grim. "But I've been hearing strange sounds at night, almost like whispers. And the energy around the lake, it feels different, alive in a way." Ryker checked the sensors again, his heart racing. The unease in the air was palpable, and he couldn't shake the feeling that their unexpected adventure on GLE 9 was only just beginning. As the night deepened, the stars shone brighter, but Riker's mind was clouded with concern. He stood by the console, scanning the ship's sensors, but nothing unusual appeared on the displays. The calmness of the celestial nomad felt almost deceptive against the backdrop of the growing tension. "Maybe it's just the lake," he said, trying to reassure himself. "Water can play tricks on your senses." Seren shook her head, her violet eyes unwavering. "No, Ryker. I've been in the depths of the Sithran oceans. This feels different. There's something here, a presence that's aware of us." "Can you sense anything specific?" "A direction?" he asked, turning his full attention to her. She closed her eyes, tilting her head slightly as if tuning into an invisible frequency. "It's difficult. The energy is scattered, like echoes bouncing off the walls of a cavern. But it's strongest," she paused, a shiver running through her. "It's strongest near the lake." Ryker felt a chill creep up his spine. He remembered the splashing sound that had drawn him to the water in the first place. The thought of what might have happened if he hadn't been there to rescue her sent a jolt of unease through him. "We should check it out," he said, resolve firming in his voice. "If there's something out there, we need to know what it is." Seren nodded, her expression one of steely determination. "I'll come with you. If it's a Sithran presence, I may be able to communicate or sense its intentions." "All right, let's grab some gear and head out," Ryker replied, donning a rugged jacket and gathering supplies, flashlights, a scanner, and a couple of emergency flares. He looked at Seren as she slid on his jacket, still slightly oversized for her delicate frame. "You ready?" She took a deep breath, her expression resolute. "As ready as I'll ever be." They exited the celestial nomad, the cool night air wrapping around them like a shroud. The twin suns had long since set, leaving only the soft glow of distant stars and the silvery reflection of the lake under the moonlight. The lake's surface appeared almost alive, shimmering with an ethereal quality. As they approached the water's edge, a palpable tension hung in the air. Ryker activated his flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness as it illuminated the rippling water. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the very ground beneath them was urging them to turn back. "Stay close," he murmured, feeling an instinctive need to protect her. They reached the edge, and Ryker shone his light across the surface. "I don't see anything," he said, but as he scanned the area, he noticed the water pulsing rhythmically, as if responding to an unseen heartbeat. Seren knelt at the water's edge, placing her hand on the surface. "I can feel it," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "It's calling out to something." Ryker crouched beside her, his flashlight illuminating her features as she concentrated. "What do you mean, calling out?" "It's like a signal, a plea for help, or maybe a warning," she replied, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The water is a conduit. If there is something beneath, it's connected to the energies of this planet." Suddenly, a series of ripples spread across the lake, larger and more frantic than before. Riker's heart raced as he instinctively reached for his blaster. What was that? I don't know, Seren said, her eyes wide. But I think we should move back. Before they could react, a loud splash erupted from the lake, followed by an otherworldly roar that echoed through the night. The sound resonated in their bones, primal and terrifying. What the hell is that? Riker shouted, adrenaline surging through him. Seren stood, her violet eyes wide with fear. We need to go. Now! They turned to run, but as they did, a massive figure surged from the depths of the lake, rising into the air like a dark wave. Riker's flashlight flickered across its form. A gigantic creature with glistening scales that reflected the moonlight, its eyes glowing a fierce crimson. Get back! Riker shouted, pushing Seren behind him as he aimed his blaster at the beast. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't look friendly. The creature roared again, a sound that seemed to vibrate the very air around them. It lunged forward, sending a wave crashing toward the shore. Riker barely had time to react as he grabbed Seren and pulled her back, the water spraying them as the beast thrashed about. Run, he yelled, dragging her away from the lake as the creature twisted and turned, seemingly disoriented. They sprinted back toward the ship, the sound of the beast's roar reverberating in their ears. The shadows seemed to close in around them, the night feeling more oppressive with every step. Riker glanced over his shoulder, expecting to see the creature lunging after them. But instead, it seemed to retreat back into the depths of the lake. What was that? Seren gasped, struggling to keep pace. What did we just see? I don't know, Riker panted, but whatever it is, it's dangerous. They reached the celestial nomad, and he quickly punched in the access code to open the door, pushing her inside first. He followed closely behind, sealing the hatch with a heavy thud. Inside, Riker's heart raced as he activated the ship's systems. We need to get out of here, he said, his voice steadying as he focused on the controls. I'll check the sensors for any signs of that creature. Do you think it'll come after us? Seren asked, her expression a mix of fear and determination. It might, Riker replied, his fingers flying over the control panel. The ship hummed to life, the familiar sounds of the engines grounding him. But right now, I want to know what we're dealing with. The sensors lit up, displaying a flurry of data. Riker studied the readings, his brow furrowing. There's a significant energy fluctuation coming from the lake, he said, pointing at the display. It seems to pulse in rhythm with that creature. It's almost as if it's part of the environment itself. Seren leaned closer, her curiosity rekindling. It's connected to the water somehow. Maybe it's the guardian of this place. Or a threat, Riker replied, glancing at her. Whatever it is, we need to understand it before we can leave. I'd rather not cross paths with it again unprepared. Do you really think it will return? Seren asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. Possibly, Riker admitted, his thoughts racing. But there's one way to find out. If we can tap into that energy signal, we might be able to learn more about it. Seren's eyes sparkled with determination. What do you need me to do? I'll need your help to set up the scanner to monitor the lake's activity, Riker said, pulling out a portable scanner. If the creature is indeed tied to the energy there, we might be able to predict its movements. As they worked together, the air in the ship felt charged with anticipation. Riker found himself drawn to Seren's presence, the way she moved with a quiet grace, her focus unwavering. Despite the danger they faced, there was a sense of purpose in their collaboration. Hours passed, and as they finished their setup, Riker could feel the tension in his muscles begin to ease, though the unease remained. He turned to Seren, who was watching the scanner with keen interest. Let's see if we can get any readings, he said. The scanner beeped softly, and a holographic display illuminated the room. The lake's energy fluctuated in real time, revealing patterns that seemed almost sentient. Riker stared at the screen, his heart pounding in his chest. Look at that. It's almost like a heartbeat. Seren leaned closer, her expression a mixture of awe and concern. What does it mean? I'm not entirely sure, but it suggests that the creature is a part of this ecosystem. It's not just some mindless beast. It has a purpose, Riker explained. Then we must discover what that purpose is, she said, determination sparking in her eyes. Ryker nodded, the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Agreed. If we can understand it, we might be able to negotiate with it or at least avoid a confrontation. Just then, the scanner emitted a series of frantic beeps, the reading spiking. Riker's heart raced as he glanced at the screen. It's coming back! Seren's eyes widened, her grip tightening on the console. What do we do? We prepare, Ryker said, moving to the ship's armory. We might need to defend ourselves. He quickly gathered emergency flares and set the ship's defenses on standby. As he returned to the control room, he could feel the air thickening, tension swirling around them like a storm. Ryker, Seren said softly, if this creature is linked to the planet and we're intruders, maybe we can reason with it. I hope you're right, Ryker replied, gripping the flares tightly. But we need to be ready for anything. Outside, the lake pulsed ominously, the darkness swirling in a foreboding dance. Ryker and Seren stood side by side, prepared to confront whatever awaited them in the shadows, aware that the true nature of GLE Nine and the creature that called it home was only just beginning to unfold. The ship's interior hummed with energy as Ryker and Seren stood side by side, their eyes fixed on the readings displayed before them. The scanner pulsed rhythmically, mirroring the ominous energy emanating from the lake. Tension crackled in the air, and the weight of the unknown pressed down on them like a heavy fog. Are you ready for this? Ryker asked, glancing at Seren, who was studying the data with unwavering focus. Her determination was infectious, and he felt a surge of resolve. I was never more ready, she replied, her voice steady. We need to understand what we're dealing with before it's too late. Outside, the lake shimmered under the moonlight, its surface appearing deceptively calm. The creature's return loomed in their minds, but they couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a confrontation. There was a mystery to unravel, a connection to forge. We can't let fear dictate our actions, Ryker said, his gaze hardening. If this creature is tied to the energy of GLE Nine, then maybe we can learn from it. Agreed, Seren said, her violet eyes alight with determination. Let's set up a communication interface. If we can project a signal, maybe we can reach out to it. Good idea, Ryker replied, quickly gathering the equipment they needed. We'll need to make it clear that we come in peace. As they worked, Ryker couldn't help but admire Seren's resolve. There was something about her presence that grounded him, a calmness that balanced his urgency. With every piece of equipment they set up, he felt their bond deepening. Two explorers caught in a whirlwind of uncertainty, yet united by a common goal. Once they finished, Ryker activated the interface, the device humming to life and projecting a soft blue light into the air. Now we wait, he said, glancing at the scanner. It may take time for it to respond. Minutes turned into what felt like hours. The tension in the air was thick as they monitored the readings, the scanner pulsing steadily. Suddenly, the screen flickered and a series of spikes erupted across the display. Ryker, look, Seren exclaimed, pointing at the readings. It's responding. The blue light intensified, sending ripples of energy into the night. Ryker felt a tremor in the air as the lake began to bubble, and the surface shifted unnaturally. His heart raced as he steadied himself, gripping the edge of the console. Is it? He started, but before he could finish, the creature emerged once more from the depths, rising into the moonlight. This time, it was closer, its massive form glistening with droplets of water, eyes glowing like twin embers against the darkness. Stay calm, Ryker instructed, his voice low and steady as he reached for the emergency flares, ready to defend them if necessary. We can do this. The creature's form was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, its scales reflecting shades of deep green and iridescent blue. It roared again, but this time the sound felt different, less of a threat and more of an inquiry, as if it were searching for something in the air. Seren stepped forward, her gaze locked onto the creature's eyes. We mean you no harm, she called out, her voice firm yet soothing. We are travelers, not enemies. We seek to understand. The creature paused, its massive head tilting slightly as it regarded them. Ryker held his breath, the air thick with anticipation. The energy from the lake pulsed around them, resonating with Seren's words. "Please," she continued, "if you can hear us, show us your intentions." For a moment, silence hung in the air, thick with uncertainty. Then, as if the creature understood, it let out a low rumble that reverberated through the ground beneath them. The water around it rippled, creating a vortex that spun hypnotically. "Ryker, I think it's trying to communicate," Seren said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Let's see if we can amplify our signal," Ryker suggested, adjusting the equipment to enhance their projection. "Maybe it will respond to that." As he made the adjustments, the creature lowered its massive head closer to the surface, and the pulsing of the lake intensified, matching the rhythm of the communication interface. A moment later, a series of melodic tones resonated through the air, echoing Seren's earlier call. "Can you feel that?" Seren asked, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's like it's speaking through the water." Ryker nodded, entranced by the exchange. The melodic tones began to shift and evolve, forming a pattern that resonated deep within him, touching something primal. He focused on the interface, feeling a connection spark between them and the creature. "Let's try responding," Seren suggested, her excitement evident. "We can mirror the tones." Ryker took a deep breath, activating the interface to send out a series of harmonic sounds that echoed the creature's calls. The response was immediate. The creature's tones intensified, merging with their own in a symphony of sound that reverberated across the lake. As the harmonious exchange continued, Ryker felt a wave of energy wash over him, a profound connection forming between them and the creature. It was no longer just a beast. It was a being, a guardian of the lake, intertwined with the very essence of GLE 9. Suddenly, the creature surged closer, its massive form gliding gracefully through the water. Ryker and Seren watched in awe as the lake illuminated beneath the creature, revealing intricate patterns swirling below the surface. "What is that?" Seren breathed, pointing at the patterns that shimmered like constellations beneath the water. "I don't know," Ryker replied, his eyes wide with wonder. "But it looks like—" Before he could finish, the creature dove beneath the surface, disappearing from view. The lake remained aglow, the swirling patterns pulsing in time with their heartbeat. "What just happened?" Seren asked, her voice tinged with excitement. "I think it wants us to follow," Ryker replied, a sense of urgency surging through him. "We can't let this opportunity slip away." "Are you sure about this?" Seren asked, glancing at the still churning water. "We'll never know what it wants unless we go after it," he urged. "We have to understand its connection to the lake. And to us." With a shared glance of determination, they quickly prepared themselves for the next step. Ryker activated a small submersible pod attached to the celestial nomad, designed for underwater exploration. He had never used it before, but now felt a sense of purpose propelling him forward. "Get ready," he said, climbing inside the small craft. "We'll go just beneath the surface, close enough to see what's happening, but far enough to remain safe." Seren nodded, her expression resolute as she joined him inside. They strapped themselves in as the pod hummed to life, and Ryker engaged the controls. The small vessel eased into the water, descending quietly beneath the surface. The world above faded away, replaced by a realm of silence and shimmering light. The glowing patterns from the lake danced around them, illuminating the interior of the pod with ethereal blues and greens. Ryker's heart raced as he maneuvered the vessel deeper, following the pulsating energy that seemed to guide them. As they descended, the water felt alive, swirling with a strange current that pulled them forward. Ryker glanced at Seren, whose eyes sparkled with wonder, and he felt a surge of excitement. They were on the verge of uncovering something extraordinary. Suddenly, the pod began to shake violently, jolting them. "What the—" Ryker exclaimed, struggling to maintain control. The current surged, swirling around them in a chaotic dance. "Ryker, hold on!" Seren shouted, gripping the sides of her seat as the pod was tossed about. With every ounce of focus, he steered the vessel, guiding it through the tumultuous waters. Just as he felt they were about to lose control, the currents suddenly calmed, and they were enveloped in an eerie stillness. "Are we okay?" Seren asked, her voice tense with anticipation. Ryker took a moment to catch his breath, then glanced out the window. The underwater world was breathtaking. Strange bioluminescent creatures swam gracefully around them, illuminating the dark waters with a soft glow. "Look," he pointed, his voice filled with awe. "It's incredible." Seren leaned closer, her eyes wide as she took in the beauty surrounding them. "This is what GLE 9 hides beneath its surface." As they continued deeper, the lake opened into a vast chamber illuminated by an otherworldly glow. At its center lay an intricate crystalline structure, pulsating with the same rhythm they had felt earlier. It was both mesmerizing and awe-inspiring, a living heart that connected them to the planet. "This is it," Ryker whispered, a sense of reverence washing over him. "The source of the energy." As if sensing their presence, the crystalline structure began to resonate with their vessel, the pulsing light matching the harmonic tones they had shared with the creature. It was as if they were being invited into an ancient dance, a celebration of connection and understanding. "Ryker," Seren said, her voice barely audible, "we have to reach out to it." "Are you sure?" he asked, feeling the weight of their situation. "What if it's dangerous?" "Trust me," she replied, her eyes shining with conviction. "We've come this far. We need to honor this connection." With a deep breath, Ryker nodded and activated the interface again, allowing the vessel to resonate with the crystal's energy. Their voices mingled with the tones, creating a symphony that filled the chamber. As the sound waves intertwined, the crystalline structure glowed brighter, its pulse harmonizing with theirs. In that moment, they were no longer just explorers. They were part of something greater, a living connection that transcended species and worlds. Then, from the depths of the chamber, the creature emerged once more, its massive form shimmering in the radiant light. It swam gracefully around the crystal, and for the first time, Ryker felt a sense of peace wash over him. "We are one," Seren whispered, her voice filled with awe. "We are part of this world." Ryker watched as the creature approached the pod, its eyes glowing with understanding. It was a guardian, a protector of this realm, and it had chosen to reveal its heart to them. In that moment, Ryker knew that their journey on GLE 9 was only just beginning. Together, they would uncover the mysteries of this world, forge a bond with its inhabitants, and perhaps find a place where both of their peoples could coexist. But as the realization settled in, a distant rumble echoed through the chamber, a reminder that not all was as it seemed. Shadows danced at the edges of their vision, and an unsettling feeling crept back into the atmosphere. "Ryker, something's coming," Seren warned, her voice laced with concern. He turned, scanning the chamber for the source of the disturbance. "We need to be cautious," he said, adrenaline surging through him once more. "We might not be alone after all." As they braced for the unknown, the connection they had forged with the creature pulsed in the depths of their hearts, a beacon of hope amid the gathering darkness. GLE 9 held secrets yet to be uncovered, and they were determined to face whatever challenges lay ahead.